warriors and PvPers, and welcome back to another PvP guide for Discipline Priest, probably the last PvP guide for this patch and expansion Battle for Azeroth. This PvP guide is for 8.3.7. My name is Alex, but you also know me as Ajol, and in this guide we'll discuss talents and its variations, PvP talents, essences, Azerite traits, stats and macros. So let's not waste any more time and dive straight into talents. My default talent build looks like this. I use Castigation, Masochism, Power Word Solace, Psychic Voice, Sins of the Many, Purge the Wicked and Lenience. However, there are a lot of variations in this build. For example, for tier 15 we can either play with Twist of Fate or even Schism in a lot more offensive situations. Castigation provides a more stable sustainability and pressures. Twist of Fate is very good for when you get out of long CC chains. The buffed healing will help you top yourself and your teammates, and Schism is more like a niche talent for when you know you'll be able to cast freely for 8 or 9 seconds after you cast Schism. Even if you are able to fake cast Schism, you have to have the precast and uptime and line of sight with the enemy to freely cast those 8 seconds, otherwise it's a waste of talent. For the next tier we have 2 mobility talents and 1 tanky talent. Body and Soul is usual the obvious and default choice for most priests. Angelic Feather will give you a longer sprint, and as you can see it doesn't cost any mana, while Body and Soul it's only applied by Power Word Shield or Leap of Fate. Masochism on the other hand causes Shadow Mend when you cast it on yourself to turn the damage over time into a heal over time effect, and also reduces all the damage you take by 10%. However, you have to keep in mind this is dispellable and it doesn't work on friendly players. Moving on to tier 45 talents, your obvious and only choice should be Power Word Solace. However, in 3v3 when you feel overwhelmed by global cooldowns, you could actually go for Mindbender. However, make sure it won't get CC'd or rooted. For tier 60 talents you only have like 2 choices. Psychic Voice is the default choice, or Shining Force on Z-axis maps. It acts like a thunderstorm. Dominant Mind doesn't work in PvP. For the last 3 talents this never changes. Sins of the Many, Purge the Wicked and Lenience, they are always default choices and should never be changed. For the PvP talents, this is the standard build. Dome of Light reduces the cooldown of Power Word Barrier by 90 seconds and also increases the damage reduction to up to 50%. Trinity is default and you should never change this or remove it. And Dark Archangel increases your damage and damage of your allies affected by Atonement by 15% for 8 seconds. Trinity should never change. However, there are variations for the other 2. For example, against classes that you need extra healing you could go with Archangel. This will refresh the Atonement up to 15 seconds and increases your healing and absorption effect by 20%. Premonition, if you won't get it from Conflict and Strife, is very useful against hunters and mages. However, be careful, they might fake cast or juke the trap, so it's kind of difficult to always successful get out of CCs. You can also get out of Repentance, Sap, Blind and other crowd controls that break on damage. Against Elemental Shamans, Destruction Warlocks, I usually play with Purification and Purified Resolve. It's insanely good, especially against Destruction Warlocks, since they usually have Fear included in their rotation, or the Shadow Fury or Mortal Coil. So having 2 charges of Dispel is very useful, not to mention the Destruction and their healer might be playing with Claw, so they might stack Claw after 1 Dispel, so having an extra charge of Dispel is very useful. And Purified Resolve, removing harmful effects with Purify, will apply Purified Resolve to the target, granting an absorption shield equal to 5% of their maximum health. lasts 8 seconds. Since you will be dispelling very often, or purify very often, however you want to call it, extra absorption is very welcomed, in my opinion. Other than that, sometimes I tested Searing Light with Castigation. It has good synergy, but again you need to have free casting and a lot of line of sight, and the enemy comp should not have too much CC. I don't know, a good example could be Mistweaver Windwalker. They don't have a lot of crowd control, so you might actually use it. You don't take this for the smite damage, but you take it for the reduced penance cooldown. When you deal damage with smite, the cooldown of your penance is reduced by 1 second. If you have a lot of haste, this can actually be very good. At the moment I'm sitting around 20% haste, so I have the cast time of 1.2 seconds. So if you reach like 42% haste or something like that, you should be able to reduce the smite cast time to about 1 second. Smite is basically free. You see the mana cost is 500 mana, and penance is also a very efficient heal with only 2k mana, so if you can just smite and penance, you could go into a very efficient healing mode. But this is mostly in theory. I tested this only a few times, so give it a try. I don't know. Final choice could be Ultimate Radiance. This can work against Rogue Mage. You could play like this: Dome of Light, Trinity, Ultimate Radiance, and get the premonition from Conflict and Strife. Ultimate Radiance makes your Power Word Radiance an instant cast, and the healing is increased by 250%. As for the PvP major talent, since I'm playing human, in almost all situations I'm playing Relentless and rely on every man for himself. However, against, for example, against any rogue team, I'll play Medallion, and against for example Holy Priest Fire Mage, again I'm gonna play Medallion, since Medallion could be more useful for when you get polymorphed, and both of them will use Claw on your teammate. So that's about it for the PvP talents. Moving on to essences. This is the default essence build, the aggressive one, with Crucible Major, Conflict and Strife, Spirit of Preservation, and Vitality Conduit. However, I have like 2 or 3 variations, I think. A second variation would be playing Conflict and Strife Major with Memory of Lucid Dreams Minor. This is the tankiest thing you can play. Yeah, if you couple this with Dome of Light and Archangel and Masochism, you're very, very difficult to kill. Very difficult to kill. Just make sure you have some basic idea of how to fake cast. And the third version would be for the Mana Wars, mostly against Demon Hunters. If you know they're gonna play Mana Rift, this should be like your third option. Remember that Memory of Lucid Dreams will affect how much mana you get from your Obsidian Claw, so it can stack actually pretty well. Why I use this is for the 100% mana regen, not for the leech, because the leech in PvP from this essence is reduced to almost nothing. So there are like 3 versions of how to play this spec. In most situations, if you're playing an aggressive comp, Crucible of Flame is gonna be your best bet. Remember that you can also heal with this, but in most situations you'll be setting up kills around Crucible, Claw, and Shadow Fiend. Next, moving on to Azerite traits. There are a few mandatory traits, I should say. The most important would be Death of the Shadows. Each time Purge the Wicked deals damage, the healing of your next Shadow Man is increased by a certain amount, up to a maximum of 15k. Remember, this is reduced in half in PvP, so these are not the real numbers. Atonement applied by Shadow Man lasts an additional 2 seconds. That doesn't apply to PvP because you're playing with Trinity and you only get Atonement from Power Word Shield. Death Throws, this is very good for 3v3, mostly if you stack 3 of these and you are able to keep Purge the Wicked on multiple targets. You will get a lot of damage and a lot of healing via Atonement. Again, this will be reduced in half in PvP, as most Azerite traits do. In order to switch to this Azerite trait, you have to temporarily switch to the Shadow spec, but afterwards you can switch back to Discipline spec and you will be able to fully benefit from this Azerite trait. A better choice would be to get, for example, 3 Depth of the Shadows, 2 Heart of Darkness, and maybe a Will and Woe or Death Throws. But Heart of Darkness you have to raid for that. I haven't raided that much and I won't be raiding since it's only a few weeks until Shadowlands. Another important Azerite trait, and I'm stacking 3 of these, is On My Way. Increases your versatility by 108. In my case it only increases by 54. Again, it's being reduced in half. So let's go over through all my Azerite traits. In Helm I have the Corrupted Gladiator, I have Depth of the Shadows, Death Throws, On My Way, Death Denied. Leap of Faith absorbs the next damage to the target within 10 seconds, while the shield holds. Leap of Faith cooldown 100% faster. Not that much but big deal, but it's okay. Next one, again, Death of the Shadows, Contemptuous Homily. Penance deals an additional 680 damage and extends your Purge the Wicked by 1 second per bolt. The only reason I took this is for the second part, not the first part. It extends the Purge the Wicked on my target, and since I'm most of the time playing with Castigation, each penance will kind of increase Purge the Wicked by 4 seconds. On My Way again, Death Denied. And in chest I have Will and Woe. Healing an ally with penance increases the damage of your next smite by an X amount. Damaging an enemy with penance increases the absorption of your next power word shield. Death of the Shadow, On My Way, and Long Strider, because these are like the best options I could actually find. Moving on to stats. Versatility is your best friend. Versatility Haste with Versatility Socket and Versatile Corruption. Weapon, Haste Versatility, Versatile Corruption, Versatile Navigation. You get as much versatility as you possibly can. Offhand, again, Haste Versatility. There are better options, but this is Battle for Azeroth, and you know, getting the exact piece that you wish for is just wishful thinking, and not everybody is that lucky. Again, Versatile Corruption. Gloves, these I have from tailoring because of the guaranteed socket, so I don't have to grind visions until the end of time. Versatility Haste, I got lucky in this situation. Socket Versatility, Versatile Corruption once again. Belt, unfortunately, I have Versatility Mastery with 475 item level. Versatility Haste version would be better, but I already have a socket. Here I have the Corruption. I won't be changing this, and I'm not grinding for any other piece. Pants, again from tailoring. Haste Versatility, Versatile Socket, Versatile Corruption. You hear me saying a lot of versatile. Boots, Versatility Mastery. Again, I did not have or find a better option. It gives me a large amount of versatility, so that's why I went with this piece. Versatility Socket and Versatile Corruption once again. Rings, I have 460 and 465. No sockets, unfortunately. I don't have the patience to grind anymore, so I'm just and mostly playing arenas. Haste Versatility, Versatility Enchant, Versatile Corruption. Same for the second ring. As for trinkets, I went for Alchemy to get a high item level Versatility Trinket with a Versatility Socket and an Intellect proc, which is always good. Until I found this 475 Forbidden Obsidian Claw. I was playing with the second Versatility Trinket, which would have boosted my versatility to higher amounts, as you can see. But in most situations the damage and the mana restore from this trinket is far more important, not to mention that intellect is still a strong stat. The damage and healing that I get from the passive intellect on this trinket is better than the versatility I get from this trinket. I did the math, I did the testing, so intellect is still your strongest stat. Again, versatility socket, and everybody knows what this trinket does. Is best in slot for disciplined priests. Some priests like to play like this. However, I find that I lose too much versatility, so I'm still playing with the alchemy trinket. It makes me a lot more tanky. You can see here I have 63% versatility. However, due to versatile corruptions being nerfed in PvP scenarios, inside arena I have 50% versatility, which is still okay because I still have conflict and strife stacks, which give me like another 500 versatility before amplifiers. Overall, I have a lot of versatility. And as you could see in a lot of my videos, I'm very tanky, and I'm also able to dish a lot of damage. Simple priority would be versatility is better than haste, which is better than mastery, which is better than crit being the worst stat you could possibly want. Now let's move on to macros. Everybody kept asking me about macros, so let's move on to them. I'm gonna go through them one by one. Let's start with the first one. This is a very simple burst macro. Show tooltip 14 means it will show my trinket. The 14 slot one, which is this, the obsidian claw, / cast dark archangel and / use 14. This will both cast the dark archangel and the obsidian claw. I've tested it. Dark archangel increases the damage of your obsidian claw, which makes it kind of obvious why you should do it and use it like this. Next macro, show tooltip must dispel / cast mod premonition. This was an old macro that I was using. I'm not using it anymore in this form. I don't have premonition here anymore. And / cast no mod at cursor must dispel. Why I have it like this? As you already know, if you cast must dispel the usual way, you will have this casting circle. So if I have it like at cursor, it will instantly cast must dispel where you're holding the cursor. Pretty simple, pretty obvious. Moving on to the next macro, things start to complicate a little. Show tooltip psychic scream. I have built-in shining force here as well. Since shining force is usable on your teammates as well, I have it on alt, shining force, using it on myself. With shift party 1 shining force, mod control party 2 shining force. At mouse over shining force, this can be useful in battlegrounds, or if you mouse over one of your pets, even your shadow fiend, a hunter pet, a warlock pet, if you hold mouse over on it, it will automatically cast shining force. And with no modifier, it will cast psychic scream. Yes. Next one is Purge the Wicked. The only reason I made a macro for this is for the annoying twisted appendage and for when it used to be pretty overpowered. Nowadays almost nobody is using it. Whenever I cast without any modifier Purge the Wicked, it will cast Purge the Wicked on my current target. Whenever I cast it with mod, it will automatically target a twisted appendage, even if it's a dead one, even though I have the no dead here. I don't know why it's still targeting the dead one. Mod exists, no dead, harm, twisted appendage, and it will cast Purge the Wicked, because in the Purge the Wicked line I don't have any modifier, so it will cast either way. Moving to the, I would say, Heart Essence macro. Here I have Dispel Magic and my Heart Essence. For example, when I cast alt and this macro, it will cast Crucible on myself, or if I'm playing Conflict and Strife, it will switch to Premonition. It will cast Premonition. If I'm using Memory of Lucid Dreams, it will cast Memory of Lucid Dreams. If I'm using Vitality Conduit, which I completely forgot about it as a major, yes, you can also play Vitality Conduit as a major in most situations. In 3v3 it's kind of a mandatory. It will cast on whoever I choose to. If I press it with shift, it's gonna cast Vitality Conduit on party 1. However, here I have, since I'm mostly playing 2v2, this macro is not fully adapted for 3v3, and when I press Ctrl, it will cast on party 1, on my teammate, Dispel Magic. The reason for this macro is whenever you Dispel Magic or Purge someone who has been mind controlled by an enemy priest, it will remove the mind control from your teammate. Hence the macro. Instead of me having to target my teammate, I just press this macro and will automatically purge him. Again, mouse over Heart Essence. If I mouse over someone, it will cast Crucible, Friendly Crucible I mean, Vitality Conduit or Premonition or something like that. And with no modifier, it will just Dispel Magic, also known as Purge. In this macro I have my Shadow Fiend and my Drinking. Also had focus a Warlock pet for some reason. I was hoping Power Word Shield will apply atonement to pets. Unfortunately it doesn't. And when I use it with a modifier and I'm not in combat, it will start drinking. Use the Rock Sip Mineral Water, I press it and it starts drinking, so I don't have to click or waste any more time. Here I have my medallion and my cloak in the same macro. If I press the simple macro with no modifier, it will use the medallion. If I use it with the modifier, it will use the cloak. Pretty simple. Moving on to the next macro, Leap of Faith. If I press it with no modifier, it will cast Leap of Faith on party 1. If I press it with the modifier, in this case Control, it will cast Leap of Faith on the other teammate. Every Man for Himself macro, similar to the Medallion macro. Again, if I press it with no modifier, it will get me out of stuns. If I press it with a modifier, it will use the cloak. The Shadow Man macro looks like every other standard macro that I'm using. Alt for myself, Shift for party 1, Control for party 2, mouse over, no mod help if I'm targeting a friendly player, no mod if I'm targeting an enemy player, it will cast Crucible of Flame on them. Moving on to the next macro, I have Mind Control and Shackle Undead in the same macro. No mod Mind Control, mod Shackle Undead. Not that complicated, just a mod macro. Pain Suppression, similar to Shadow Man and any other friendly macro. Alt for myself, Shift for party 1, Control for party 2. Mouse over version, no mod help version, no mod Pain Suppression. The same with Penance. The same with Purify. This macro is for Smite and Schism for whenever I try Schism. I have tried it a few times in this patch and in this expansion. However, it got nerfed in 8.3 and Schism doesn't affect any of your global damage like Crucible, Obsidian Claw, so it only scales up with your damage. Like your Smite, your Purge the Wicked, your Power Word Solace. For the Power Word Solace, here I used to have the Revitalizing Voodoo Totem, so I had this here with modifiers, with Alt for myself, Shift for party 1, Control for party 2. With no mod it would cast Power Word Solace and also Fade, since Fade is of the global. I was at some point I was using these shoulders with Sanctum. A lot of people ask me why do I use Fade. This is the reason I have Fade built in one of the macros so that I don't have to worry about it. Fade basically gives you magic absorb for 10 seconds. It works against a lot of the damage in the game at the moment. Magic dots, including gushing wounds, it does shadow damage, so it's still magic damage. It helps against a lot of things, but since it's on the minor Azerite trait tier, it doesn't absorb that much. However, if it's free of mana and off the global, why not use it? Another macro, Power Word Barrier. With mod it will cast Power Word Fortitude for easy rebuffs. However, don't get too excited using this in arena because it costs too much mana, 3k mana, it's better off spending it somewhere else. With no modifier and add cursor, it will cast Power Word Barrier for easy usage, as you can see. Next macro, Power Word Shield. Similar to other macros, it will cast Power Word Shields at myself using the Alt modifier, at party 1 using the Shift modifier. However, here I have a few modifications. With no mod, it will also cast Desperate Prayer. Remember, this is also off the global cooldown. And it will also use Health Stone. So Desperate Prayer and Health Stone are very good friends. Desperate Prayer increases your maximum health by 25% for 10 seconds and instantly heals you for that amount. And as you already know, Health Stone instantly restores 25% of your health. You want to use first Desperate Prayer, so make sure you're not locked in Holy. However, if the situation is dire, use the macro either way. It will use Desperate Prayer first, increases your health and heals you, with the Health Stone following in the same global. It will use Health Stone, so it's basically like a semi-lay on hands. A few general macros here. Yes, I have on scroll up and scroll down, I have target arena 1, target arena 2. Angelic feathers are the same as any other casting circle thing. So if you use this macro, instead of having to do this and then move, and then you can just use the macro, as you can see, and it will instantly cast the feather wherever you need it and move around at maximum speed. And with this being said, this guide reached its end. Thank you all for bearing with me until the end. I wish you all a PvP day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and see you next time.